I am digital illustrator Mike Meth.
I'm model and body painter Caitlin San Angelo.
I'm record producer and songwriter Mark Conklin, and this is Artistic Awareness.
Hey! All right, welcome to episode 12 of the Artistic Awareness Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion of the unspoken issues facing artists today. Our guest for this episode is Mark Conklin, an award-winning songwriter, producer, and performer based in New Jersey and Nashville. His songs have been recorded by dozens of artists, reached numerous top 10 and top 40s charts, and you may have even heard some of them on TV shows from ABC, HBO, and Showtime. Our topic for this episode is the 80-20 rule, and Miss Caitlin San Angelo will be starting us off. Caitlin!
Yay! I will be starting us off. Welcome to episode 12. Mark, thank you so much for being on with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Gladly. So tell us a little about yourself, how you got started, what you do.
Well, I got started probably like every kid does by, I wanted to meet girls when I was 13, so I started playing guitar and writing songs and playing in bands and playing in all kinds of, cover bands and things like that. And then throughout the years, I kind of changed my focus to when I was in my early 30s for writing songs for other people and producing other artists because I was probably too old to be an artist myself at that point. So I decided I would start doing that, and that's kind of what put me where I am today. So now the company I own is called Music City East, and we do record production, music publishing, and of course now I'm an artist manager as well. I'm managing a young artist and about to develop a few more. So I'm really kind of a jack of all trades now, and as part of the music business is you kind of have to do those things. You have to be able to do a lot of different things to kind of survive in it, and I do, as you said, I spend a lot of time in Nashville. That's kind of my home away from home, which is the concept of Music City East is, of course, Nashville's Music City, and me being in the New York area, it was kind of the idea was to bridge the two places between Nashville and here, and hence the name Music City East is why we called the company that. So the long and short of it is I do a lot of things, but the thing I guess I do, I consider myself mostly as a songwriter, but I do all the other stuff as well to kind of keep up with it.
I had not known the Music City East reference. That makes a lot more sense now.
There you go.
Learn something new every day. Okay,
Yeah, I just got that too.
Completely random surprise question you definitely don't know that we're going to ask you. Tell us 3 fun facts about yourself. 3, anything you want. First 3 things.
Fun facts. I was once in a burning building when I worked for the police department when I was a young man, and the building burned down, but I got out, and they wrote about me in the paper and stuff like that, which was pretty interesting.
We're glad you did.
Yeah, that's right. Fun fact. I guess that's a pretty fun fact.
I think that's pretty fun.
That's probably the most fun fact I have. I don't know if there's.
It probably wasn't fun at the time.
No, it was terrifying at the time, and I ripped my pants when I was running out, which that's the worst part. Because now you've got to go through the rest of the night and day with a hole in your pants, and you're embarrassed by that, and you got to do a walkthrough with the arson inspector, and it's really it's not fun. So that
was the one thing you remember from the experience.
Yeah, that, and at the time I smoked and I left my cigarettes inside, and I thought I was convinced they were going to blame me for burning down the building. That's what I thought.
Oh no!
But I didn't. I swear I didn't.
Okay, tell us
fun fact number 2.
Actually, fun facts now.
Fun. Oh man, I don't know. I like baseball. What I keep doing.
That's not bad. What's your favorite color?
What I'm wearing, I guess. No, green. I'm Irish, so I like.
Green is my favorite. So green, baseball, escaped a burning building.
That's it.
Bonus fun fact: Mark has never heard of Rafi.
Rafi?
Rafi? I don't know. I feel like that's a similar question to Babar or Babar. It's whatever you choose. But
Banana Phone is well known. I'm in shock.
Oh no! Wait a minute. He was the children's artist, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, I've heard the name. I just don't know. I couldn't tell you any of the songs.
You yanking my chain.
No. Now I realize I do. He's been around for a long time, like an older guy, right? Like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But I don't know.
We can be friends again.
Now that we've gotten the important business handled. So, as we discussed, our topic for the episode is the 80-20 rule. So first things first, Mark, what is the 80-20 rule, if you do know, and how did, because you mentioned earlier that I guess in your conversation with Cait, you were talking about the 80-20 rule. So what is it, and where did you first come across it?
The 80-20 rule was discovered or thought of by a man named Pareto. I think that's how you pronounce it, Pareto, who was an Italian.
Babar.
That's right. He was an Italian, I think in the late 1800s or something, who discovered that 20% of the people owned 80% of the land. And he kind of extrapolated that out and started looking at all kinds of things and realized that, in essence, if you boil it down, 20% of our activity generates 80% of our results. And so that's kind of, if you even own a business, usually 20% of your customers generate 80% of your revenue. Again, 20% of your activities, even in relationships with people, that 20% of what you do is, 80% of why they like you, what they like about you. So I don't know when I first heard about it. I probably heard about it years ago before I kind of went really hard at music. I was building an internet business, and I was studying a lot about business practices and things, and that's probably the first time I heard it. And then when I was at, I spent 11 years at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in marketing and sales. That's where I actually got to see it hands-on. I watched as they literally did the numbers and figured out that it was roughly 20% of our patrons that were spending 80% of the money, and then they developed a strategy around how to reach those folks and how to kind of expand them and get more people into that pool. So I got to see that up close, but I didn't really start applying it to my own self until more recently, when I was reading something and it came up again, and I thought, oh yeah, I'd forgotten about this. And so that's basically what it is. 20% of your activities generates 80% of your results.
Yeah, so my first question to you was going to be specifically, where do you see that showing up, and how do you apply that to your own work?
I try to apply it everywhere, but specifically, the one that it kind of first came to was, I do lots of different things. Like I said, I'm wearing all these different hats, and I wanted to start looking at where was I having the most impact, and what are the things that actually makes me more successful than not. And as I was studying it, in particular, the young artist that I manage, her name is Marie, it's M-R-E-E, we were having lots of success with sync placements. And sync placements is when they take music and synchronize it with video, whether that's for film or television or advertising. And we were having, this past year, we've had a lot of success with it. And so I really started looking at, okay, this is where we're having success. How did we get this? How did we have all this success? And I wanted to kind of figure it out. And I really figured out that it was a combination of things. It was the content that we had, that her music was really suited for this. And the other thing was that we had to have somebody out in the world who could reach all these music supervisors who are doing film and television. And we found somebody in LA, and so I kind of thought back from that and said, well, how did we meet them? And I worked it all the way back to a contact that I met in Nashville. Actually, I met him in New York, but he was from Nashville, and I could follow this chain as to who I knew that had done this. And so it was weird that I had to go to New York to meet somebody in Nashville, to introduce me to somebody in LA who could do these things for us, and that was over a 7-year period. And when I started looking at that, I thought, okay, the two things that this really comes down to for me is content and contacts, and specifically the quality and the quantity of both. And so when I started looking at that, I thought, okay, that's where I had a huge impact because of this contact that I had, but again, not just having a contact, but having a quality one. And then the quality of the content that we had, that was Marie's music, which was fantastic. And so I started looking at, okay, if the quality and quantity of my content and contacts is the area that I have the most impact in, then I should be spending, instead of 20% of my time in it, I should be spending 40 or 50% of my time doing those two things, creating quality content, creating quality contacts, and then that way I can kind of grow the business and have more things happen. So that's been how I've been focusing probably the last 6 months, is on those two areas, and trying to spread my day out so that instead of just doing that for an hour or two a day, I'm doing that for at least half the day or more if I can, and doing, making more trips into New York and or to Nashville, and just meeting with people and having coffee and kind of developing those relationships. because you won't necessarily see that tomorrow. It's not like it's just going to, you snap your fingers and the next thing you know it happens. But these things happen over time, but you have to be, constantly working at them. So that was the concept behind it, and that's how I specifically applied to what I do now.
And I would imagine that it's a trial and error process in order to distinguish what that 20% is. That obviously, if you knew that from the start, you would go straight there. But it's interesting the path that you had to take in order to identify, what is the moneymaker? What is that thing that if you take the rest of that energy and apply it to that particular area, it's going to yield serious rewards?
Yeah, I remember thinking about it, and it probably took me 4 or 5 days of thinking about it, just to the point where I got to the point where I said, okay, this is what it is. The interesting thing is that I can then apply that even within the creative side. So let's say on the songwriting side, if I think about the songs that get the most reaction or the most results, the type of songs that I write, again, it's probably 20% of it that's generating 80% of the excitement. And so I try to now look at that and go, okay, what are the types of things that I'm doing creatively that are creating that kind of response, and then do more of that instead of the other things. And it's difficult because you still have, you have to answer emails. There's other things that you have to do. But I think sometimes it's the tail wagging the dog. We let those other things, dictate how we're going to perform, rather than letting the more important things be the things that we make priorities in the day.
Yeah, that was my next question actually, was like, what are some of the challenges of maintaining your focus on that 20%, particularly being so multifaceted and wearing all these different hats? How what challenges get in your way to be able to really hone in on that 20% and keep your focus there and really like work it?
Well, part of it is, time management, which is a misnomer because we obviously don't manage time. We just manage ourselves. But I have now tried to literally look at my day. I try to plan out ahead my week and my day so that I'm making those things the priority and they become first on the list. And then the other thing is to try to delegate as much as I can out of the things that I'm doing to other people, which when you're in business for yourself is not easy. But, as you may know.
I tell Mike to do things, he tells me to do things, and both of our workloads still stay pretty even.
But and I recently took on an assistant that has actually been helping me with some of those things that, like the social media accounts and things. All those things have to be done. You have to kind of be building things. So I think it's partly, if you're in management, certainly it's delegating those kinds of things out. And again, just making sure of focus. And the other thing is to keep it in front of me, literally, to have it on my computer as the first thing I read when I come into work in the morning, so that I'm thinking about this is what I need to do. And I think planning is the big thing, is kind of looking ahead to the week and thinking, what do I want to accomplish here this week, and making sure that those things are the priority. Because it's amazing, other things can fall through the cracks. They will get done. But the big things, we tend to let them go. So I found for myself that I really need to focus, at least make sure I'm doing those things first, especially creatively, using my creative energy early in the morning and not waiting till later in the day when you're burnt out and
That's a big one for me. Oh yeah. If I'm going to do any heavy, big, large, important tasks like that, I've got to put them first, like fresh after my coffee. 'Cause I know if I try to hit it after lunch, I'm a goner. It's not going to happen.
I find that interesting.
I'll do some dishes, I'll answer some emails, I'll say I'll get to it later, and same for me.
I definitely know that you have your morning people, not necessarily morning people, but you have people who they get their heavy lifting done earlier on in the day, but then also you have your night owls. When I went to college for digital media, and the majority of my class, they basically, at night, that's where everybody was in the computer lab working on stuff that the majority of the work got done probably between the hours of 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. And I'm not necessarily sure whether that's the byproduct of choice or necessity, but it's definitely an interesting split between when that window of maximum efficiency is. And another thing I was thinking, Mark, when you were talking about putting out all these different things, all this different work, and then kind of having the audience decide for you which is the thing that you should pursue. Cait, that reminded me of the Trent Reznor conversation we had. Was that on one of our episodes?
I don't know if it was, but I only vaguely recall this conversation, the Trent Reznor one.
Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails.
Yes, I do remember.
Fame,
Wasn't he in multiple bands, and he was just going to stick with whatever one took off? Was that?
Yeah, he started a bunch of different bands. I think that there was like a country one, obviously Nine Inch Nails as well, and started a bunch of these different bands and basically put them out there and said, whichever one takes off, that's the avenue I'm going to pursue, and it happened to be Nine Inch Nails, and the rest, as they say, was history. Which I find that interesting, that it's you never really have the ability to foresee what is going to be that 20% that brings in the focus and brings in the income, and then in hindsight it seems so clear, but it's usually the audience, it's usually the community that kind of lets you know, oh, this is the thing that you should pursue.
I have a question. Hey, Mark, do you ever come up with, as you're recognizing what, like your songs, for instance, you had mentioned, it's quite clear to you that there's 20% of your songs that create the most excitement for people. Is it hard to hear that? Like, is it difficult, like, when you recognize these are the most popular, to be like, no, this one should be most popular. I did a better job on that one. Like, does your creative ego get in the way of that at all? I know it does for me a little bit, to like to let someone else dictate what my most effective 20% is, because it's not always what I want my effective 20% to be.
Yes, that can be. I'll tell you, part of what I do is, and I have done over the years, is I'll go to Nashville and I'll sit in the office with publishers, and I'll play them songs. And so the idea is you're playing them these songs, and then they're going to pick which ones they think they can then market to other artists and other people. And the thing that's, a friend of mine said this to me the other day that I'd never thought of this. He said, Mark, you have to remember what we're in is a B2B business. I never thought of this, but what we're kind of, since I'm not selling my songs necessarily directly to the public, my goal is to get my songs recorded by other artists, or to get my artists signed to record labels, etc. So I'm really reliant upon other businesses like other record labels and publishers and people like that to kind of be in business with me. So that's my audience. I'm marketing to them. And when I would play for publishers, I would play them these songs, and I would get to a song that I think is, one of my better songs, it's one of the best I've written. I'd play it for them, and they'd get done with it and go, and they'd go, man, that is unbelievable. It's just fantastic. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah. And then we get to the next one, and it's this really up-tempo rockin' song, which is not as good, but commercially more viable. And they're like, man, I tell you, that ballad you wrote, that song about your father, that thing just kills me. Hey, do you mind if I go pitch this song about the with the rock and roll thing? Like, yeah, okay. But I kept getting that. And so, yeah, there's a part of you that's like, even they know it. They're like, this is better, but this is way more marketable. Right. But the truth is, I'm in business to be in business. I'm going to make a career at this. And so at some point you have to check your ego at the door, and you have to go, okay, if I just want to be an artist, I can do this as a hobby and never have to listen to anybody tell me anything about anything at all. But if I want to make a career at this or a living at it, it's a choice. I made it. And so I have to kind of listen to what other people who are, Now, it doesn't mean I wouldn't, if I really believe in a song, I'm not going to keep pushing for it, even if the first guy's like, no. And I think there's room for those things, but we're in a market that, there is a marketplace, and it dictates what happens with the songs.
I think that's another great opportunity to implement the whole 80-20 idea. I was having this conversation with a photographer friend recently, talking about how as much as you want to do these things for you, you need to put out the stuff that sells. But I think from a creative standpoint, that maybe we'd be best suited to focus 80% on putting out the stuff that we need to do in order to make sales and support ourselves. But I think that we need that 20% of doing stuff for us just for the sake of sanity. Because if it's all just stuff to bring in the business, if it's all just stuff about keeping yourself afloat, then...
If you were really savvy, wouldn't it be the opposite? Wouldn't it be 20% of what you do would yield 80% of your income? So 20% of your art would yield 80% of your income, and then the other 80% of your art would just be for you?
I don't know. I'm not good at math. I just
Yeah, this is not the podcast for stats. No.
I think the trick or the challenge is to find your art to find your art into the way of commerce. And anytime you do those two things, it's a tricky balance. But if, for instance, in songwriting, there are certain things that are structured that are marketable, but it's finding your unique voice that you have within that and bringing that to it. I think that's the best of both worlds is when you've kind of, I mean, we don't live in a vacuum. We're not writing songs so that nobody can hear it. I mean, as a songwriter, our goal is that lots of people would hear it. And so it's kind of finding the balance of those two things and bringing your unique perspective into what is, my friend always says, and my friend Dave says, it's like a Coke bottle. He said, the Coke bottle, you pick it up, you understand it. You know how it feels. It's got a certain structure. It's got a certain form. What you put in the bottle can be anything. But at least it has the structure and the form that you understand, and I've always thought that's a great analogy for kind of bringing the two worlds together.
I love that. I've never heard that before.
No,
I'm
I've never heard that
definitely gonna
either.
use that.
That's great.
The next question I wanted to ask you, Mark, is how do you balance your short-term goals with your long-term goals?
Very difficult. Not difficult. Very challenging. Part of it for me is to keep them in front of me always, and that's really to keep looking. I have to remind myself to constantly every day to be looking at things, and literally in front of me on my computer that says this is what I'm trying to do short term, this is what I'm trying to do long term. But it is really easy to get bogged down in short term thinking. I mean, it's just natural human survival instinct that we have. So I think the key for me again is to keep it in front of me so that I'm always looking big picture. But at the same time, I realize that I have to be willing to calibrate, knowing that nothing ever happens the exactly way we think it's going to. It doesn't happen exactly the time. My business has not evolved like I thought it would. I never thought I would be an artist manager, and yet here I am doing it. But I know where my North Pole is. I know where I ultimately want to be, and so I kind of I'm just open to calibrating as I go. It's like an airplane that flies across the country. It's never actually on target until the very end when it lands. Most of the time, if you look at them on the screen, they're off target. So that I kind of look at it the same way. Like, it's okay as long as I know where I'm going, and I just keep adjusting as I go until I put the thing down. And it's hopefully safely on a runway somewhere.
You mean the pilots have no idea where they're going and I'm never going to fly again?
I've had a few of those lately, I'm pretty sure.
Jeez.
Oh, no. So, I know for me, similarly, when I'm trying to balance my short term and my long term, and just keeping it in front of my face is a huge help. Like having it on my Google Calendar, keeping a running to-do list on my computer, so it's just available and in front of my face. But there's still, I still don't work with the efficiency that I wish I had, or things still come up for me. Even though I take all the right steps in terms of planning and keeping it in front of my face. So I was curious if there's anything for you, like what, if anything, stops you in working as quickly or efficiently or like directly as you could be?
Well, first thing I've come to the point now where I realize that nothing is going to, again, going back to the time management thing, like there's no way to really manage it. Things are going to come up. You can't not have these things happen. So I've stopped worrying about it. That's first. Because worrying about it has done me absolutely no good, and fussing over it. In other words, I could worry about it or not worry about it. The same things still come up. So the first thing I've done is let that go, because it's silly to even worry too much about it. But at the same time, I think it's important that if you're basing things again on what's most important, then you can, as long as you're always going back to the focus of this is what's most important for me to do, if that's your first priority, things will work out over the long haul. It may not happen in the exact time frame you want, but as long as you're kind of acting on principle first, then you can kind of handle the other things, but you just got to get used to the fact that that's never going to change. It's just the way life is. Emergencies come up, family emergencies, like there's no way of getting around that. It's called real life. It's just a matter of kind of being principled about it and dealing with that
real life.
Real life. Yeah.
I mean, so it sounds like, kind of to go back to your analogy before, that the ultimate goal, the thing that you're ultimately pursuing is the Coke bottle, and things are going to come up. You got to think on your feet sometimes, but as long as you are making sure you stick to the Coke bottle, you're sticking to your primary commitment and your primary goal, then that's ultimately going to take you where you want to go. Yes?
Yeah, again, if it's because remember the 80-20 rule, 20% of what you do nets 80% of your results. So it's not that you're not going to do the other 80% that you have to do. You're
Right.
going to do it. The question is, can you get the 20%, can you increase it to 30% of your time, 40% of your time? If you can do that, now literally if you think about that, if you take 20% of what you do and double it, and do that 40% of the time, you can double your output and your results. And the salespeople really, I was in sales and marketing, and one thing I loved about it was that it was very easy to figure out. If you were a salesperson and you looked at, okay, I've got to make so many calls to get so many yeses to make so much money, you could start figuring out, well, all I have to do is reach X more amount of people, and I can literally double the amount of money that I make. And that's the same concept that I've now tried to apply, even though it's not quite the same. There's some, it's not just as easy as making more calls or just write more songs. It doesn't work like that. But again, if you focus down and you just do an extra 10% or an extra 20%, your results start to come up dramatically. And so I think for anything you do in life, again, whether you're married and you're trying to keep your wife happy, it's like, figure out those things that you do that really make her happy and just increase that 10, 20, 30%.
There's a joke in here somewhere.
Yeah. There's laughter of recognition over here.
There's no joking. There's no joking with wives. That's all I'm going to say. Happy wife equals a happy life.
Yeah. I feel like, that really is just the key to success. And if we could all just identify what is that 20%, what is the 20% that's generating all this. And it doesn't necessarily need to be financially. Like you said, with your wife, what is the 20% that's yielding the best results, and finding what that is and saying, let's do this more. I feel like that's really the key to making everything work.
What's
another
interesting,
question I wanted to ask. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They've actually, I was reading recently, they've broken this down now that within the 80-20, it's 80-20. So
what?
So like let's say you have a business that 20% of your customers generates 80% of your revenue. Well, within that 20% of customers, there's 20% of them generating 80% of that revenue. So you can actually keep breaking that down even as far as it'll go. So you can really see, I'm making you nuts here with that.
Yeah, I work in art for a reason.
It's Mike Meth, not Mike Math. I get it.
Oh my God! Hang on one second. I missed it. There we go.
I didn't know
that's going to be a sound bite. So the next question I wanted to ask you, that was fantastically done.
That was really good.
You should pursue a career in writing. So if you had to pick one thing, what is one thing that you wish you could do better?
Oh, wow. That I could do better. Yeah.
Math.
If I knew we had sound effects, I could have really dialed up some stuff for you guys here.
Oh man, yeah, we got the music guy on. We should next time.
I think the big thing is, again, just focus. Focus. To me, focus is everything, and it's not that easy to do, especially when you're a creative type. You kind of get off onto different things. It's in art. It's what makes us good at what we do, and it's what makes us not so good at other things. So I think if anything, if I can just be more focused on what it is all the time that I'm trying to do, and going into every situation and realizing what it is I want to kind of get out of this, as opposed to, again, the tail wagging the dog, that would probably be it. I would say if I could focus more, if I could snap my fingers, that would be the one.
Yeah.
And if you had to start your entire journey back over again, is there anything you would do differently?
That's an interesting question. I always laugh when people say, "Oh, I wouldn't do anything differently," because I think that's a load of nonsense.
A load of hooey. Save there.
I understand it philosophically. You can't do it over. You are exactly where you should be. It's very zen. I get it. But there are things, certainly little moments and big moments, that I would change. But I think the big thing is just starting earlier. So when I started going full time, when I kind of went back to music was not until I was in my early 30s, and it was really after 9/11 happened, and it just kind of was a wake-up call to me that, what are you doing? I was building an internet business, and I said, what are you doing over here? Music is what you really should be doing. And so that's when I started going at it pretty hard, and then it took 10 years till I went full-time at it. If I could do anything differently, it really would have been to move those two things up, where I would kind of, I'd go back to my 20s and be doing it full-time, from the time I was 23 on, if I could, but I can't. So,
Now, do you think you would have been, ready to take that on without that type of wake-up call? That's, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest hole in that argument, I find, because I totally get it. There are absolutely always going to be individual events that maybe I wish I could have avoided that or whatever. I know for me, when I was fresh out of college, I was expecting this big-time marketing gig. And, the thing fell through at the last minute, and I was devastated. I ended up waiting tables for a year and just, like, in this state of what am I going to do next? But that gave me, that downtime, and because I didn't go straight into the marketing gig, that gave me the opportunity to go back to art school and kind of reevaluate. So I think it's hard to say without those events, would you still get to that, would you still get to where you ended up? Would you still get to where you wanted to be? Or does it take some type of wake-up call? Does it take some type of jarring event for you to shift your perception and get yourself prepared to go down that road?
Well, that's the beauty of it. We'll never know. I mean, that's what's great about it, is that, that's why I say you cannot undo it. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, and this is, the moment we are in is the only moment we have. But certainly, I still say that if I could have done it earlier, I would have. But I don't know. I'm happy where I'm at, so I'm just glad, things are going well now, and just, go from here.
Fair enough. Was there anything else you had, Cait? Cait, you're on mute.
I don't hear Cait.
Sorry.
she's saying something really significant, I can tell, but she's talking to no one.
Oh, man. My Google Hangouts got tired of my bad puns and just started to auto-mute me.
Oh, man. Bring it back.
No, I just wanted to say thank you for entertaining us for half an hour.
Oh, man.
And Mark,
I didn't even know what the pun was.
You don't get it now. It's gone. Gone forever. If I could do it differently, I would, but, I'm right where I am, and you can't go back. So
it'll be on the bonus DVD.
All right, Mark, where can people stay in touch with you and keep up with your journey and what you're up to?
Probably the best place is the company website, which is musiccityeast.com. You can go on there, and there's a contact thing, or if anyone wants to send an email or something or complain about something, that's fine. I'm okay with that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention that's pretty exciting, for the first time this year, I'm going to be the artistic director for a youth singer-songwriter camp at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center at NJ in Newark. And if there are people that are that have teenagers that are interested in words and music, it's a pretty cool experience that we're building, I think, with pro instructors and guest speakers and things. So they can go to njpac.org and look at the arts education site, and they can find out about that and register for that. But that's really been, in preparing for it, in how do I teach songwriting, it's actually been really exciting because it's gotten me excited to write again. It's like it reminds me of why I love doing it, and so hopefully
re-energizes that enthusiasm, right?
Sure. I think that I think my brother actually took part in that program, or he was in NJ Pac Jazz for Teens.
Jazz for Teens is a fantastic program, and this is kind of our version of that, and we're hoping to build it as well as they've done with it over the years. Our goal is to build this into something that's similar in nature over time. So this will be our first crack at it this summer.
That's
awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for keeping us posted. That's fabulous.
You heard it here first on Artistic Awareness.
Artistic Awareness exclusive.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks again, Mark. To the rest of you, if you would like to keep in touch with us, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/artistic awareness. We are also on Twitter at Art Podcast, and you can subscribe to us on YouTube to get these episodes delivered straight to your inbox. We would also like to hear from you guys. How do you plan on applying your newfound 80-20 rule to maximize your efficiency. Leave your comments right below this video. And unless anyone has anything else.
I do have one more thing.
One more thing. That's it. One more.
Always forget to mention this. We have to change our script, Caitlin.
Oh, for the group?
We also want to continue the conversation with you guys. We have, in addition to our official page, we have Artistic Awareness Community, which is our group on Facebook that gives you guys the opportunity to say whatever you want to say, and it's just as visible as anything that we say, which is a great format. And the URL for that is, let me see if I can remember, facebook.com/groups/artistic awareness. Yeah.
Artistic awareness.
Yeah. Facebook.com/groups/artistic awareness. Yeah. And if that's wrong, I'm gonna look like a jerk, but I think that's accurate. So, now you can tie this all up, Caitlin.
All right, great. On behalf of us here at Artistic Awareness, thanks for watching, and see you next time.
See you later, guys.